Well, Kenan Thompson, before we talk about this year's SNL, I want to ask you, going back about 9 months ago, you got your first Emmy nomination ever. What was that? What was that morning like getting the nomination?
It was unbelievable. I woke up to a lot of text messages like congratulating me, and I was like, what is everybody talking about? I didn't even know that it was coming up that day. So it was nice to get the news that way, I guess, that I was being nominated. Yeah.
And you've been to several ceremonies as part of the cast, but then going to the Creative Arts ceremony where you were up for original song, what was the experience like as an actual nominee?
It was awesome. I've actually never been, you know what I mean? Like, I've actually never been to the Emmys before. Like, there was always something I had to do, or there was, a family commitment or something like that. So that was my first experience at the Emmys, was the Creative Arts one. And that, honestly, I thought it was the purest form of like the love of entertainment, because like that entire room was filled with people that are super duper professional and focused and great at their jobs, and they hardly get any recognition for it, and they do it for the love. So it was like a really awesome experience to, especially for my first time going.
And you got to applaud for several of your SNL people. I believe the costume designers and some of the others, technical direction, some of those won that night.
Yeah, absolutely. And, hair makeup, like usually wins almost every year too, because, those guys do an incredible amount of work in a super duper short amount of time. So, I'm not surprised that they sweep it year after year after year, because they do incredible work. They're very talented people. Amongst like that entire room, you know what I mean? Honestly, it was very cool.
What your crew reminds me of is when they say degree of difficulty at the Olympics. Your crew, and the cast too, but just the amount of things that they have to do in that 190-minute period when you're live.
It's a lot, man. You know what I mean? But like I said earlier, it's a team effort. So I don't even know if I said that earlier. I'm just saying, like, I'm doing a lot. It is a team effort for real. And, thank God everybody, loves what they do and is, approaching it as a professional. So it can look as great as it looks.
I want to talk about this season a little bit. Of course, you had a lot of great characters to play, some from the past and some new ones that you created. One of my editors and I got to come to a episode in October, and it was the I've heard her name so many times, Gal Gadot episode.
Yes.
And it was a good one, but you had a sketch in that episode that I just loved because you pulled the rug out from under us. It was the dating sketch.
Oh, yeah.
Explain to everybody what that was, because you, in the middle of it, we just think it's a typical dating sketch, and we find out you're somebody else in the middle of that sketch.
Well, I mean, that was one of the greater reveals in a sketch that I've ever been a part of, honestly. You know what I mean? Because like it started off so kind of mediocre, like the audience didn't really know what was going on. Like they were on board with like the cutesiness of it, but they still were like kind of half laughing at things. And then like once the reveal happened that I was OJ, you know what I mean? It was just like the perfect timing, because you're trying to figure out, usually in a sketch, you want to know what the sketch is about, pretty quickly. So to unfold it for a while and kind of like deal with that awkwardness is, a thing of beauty, especially for, us creatives who write a lot of sketches all the time, and then have it be celebrated, you know what I mean? Like the timing of the reveal was just, an awesome feeling. So from that moment on, like I think the sketch went in an awesome direction, and we walked a really fine line with that subject, and I think we did a good job with it.
Another person you got to play again this year is Steve Harvey. I think that's one of my favorites that you do anytime, anywhere. When he does something out in public, like the Miss Universe thing, are you just cheering at home?
I am, if we're up, you know what I mean, and we have a show that week. Like, unfortunately for me, he did that right when we went on our 3-week Christmas break last year, so I didn't even get a chance to touch on that subject. And I was like, just like comedy gold, like washing down the river, and I'm just watching it go.
But in general, you see somebody, or any cast member sees somebody that they play or could play, and it happens that week. I mean, you've got to be overjoyed.
Absolutely. It was the same thing with the royal wedding with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's wedding with that bishop, you know what I mean? And I woke up to text messages like, oh man, like, I don't know if you saw this guy or whatever, but we're excited to see what you're going to do with this. And I hadn't even like watched the wedding or anything like that yet. It kind of happened like in the middle of the night. So I just waking up to that. And then Brian Tucker, bless his heart, wrote that update piece at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we did it that night. I just love that. You know what I mean? Like just the spontaneity and like the ability of like all of our departments to get that look together. It was incredible, incredible.
Yeah, I had Bill Hader on a couple of years ago, and he said there were times when on a Friday or maybe a Saturday morning they were saying, "Can you play so and so?" Like impersonate so and so, and he would figure it out somehow in that 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, once you in a groove like that, it's kind of like what you take away from a person in just a few seconds. Like I, watched like a YouTube clip of him, and then I just, watched 10 seconds of his speech, and I was like, oh, I know this guy, like for real. So yeah.
He needs his own show so you can continue to do him next season.
Oh, I would love it. He's just so full of joy. Everything is all about love.
Who was somebody else this year that you really enjoyed, or a sketch you really enjoyed from this past season?
I mean, it's been an awesome season. You know what I mean? I think like we had fun with Chadwick doing Black Jeopardy. That was awesome. John Mulaney and that freaking diner sketch where I got to do the lobster Les Mis. That was incredible.
That was one of the most surreal sketches I think I've ever seen on SNL. That's 43 years. That was.
It was unbelievable.
I love those kind of sketches because as a fan, you just you crave things that aren't the same or that are the things you haven't seen before.
Absolutely. And as a performer, it's like, when do I get a chance to like sing the Jean K. Jean song? You know what I mean? From Les Mis. So it was like, it was so wrapped in stupidity and awesomeness at the same time. It was fantastic.
And Chance the Rapper hosted, and you two, there was the two of you that were part of this. You were the previous year on the Emmy nomination. He was with you, right?
Yeah. Chance is, he's a great dude. He's super nice, super duper talented. You know what I mean, and unbelievably gracious. So when he graced us with that rap that we got nominated for, it was just like, yeah, of course he's getting nominated for an Emmy because that's how awesome he is. Without even trying usually. But he came and he hosted it, and he really tried, and he brought brilliant ideas like that Batman idea to the table and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's really inspiring to see somebody that young want to service the show in that way, because the show is like almost twice his age. You know what I'm saying? So to see somebody who like really cares and like loves the tradition of that sketch comedy form is, that's really set, it's very, I don't know. It's just very gratifying. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know. It humbles you. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if he can be excited about it, we should be excited about it every 2 seconds. And I usually am. Going
into a week, you have all kinds of hosts. Is it more fun, say on a Monday or Tuesday, or more something you're looking forward to when it's a first timer, or when it's somebody that's a tried and true veteran that's done it several times?
I mean, it all depends on the week. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you'll have a veteran come and, you might not have an idea, and that's almost more depressing, you know what I mean? Because you're kind of like letting down somebody But then sometimes, a new person will come in and they'll be, as awesome as anybody that's ever done it, 10 times before, like Chance, you know what I'm saying? So you just take it by the week as it goes. Say hi.
Hello.
There's my daughter, Georgia.
Yes, star.
Yeah. Come on back with your mommy. Bye-bye. It's okay. You going to the store. Bye.
Okay. We've had every child you can imagine on interviews. And
you're going to get chocolate raisins. That's right.
How old is she?
She's about to turn 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that keeps you busy.
Yes.
I will ask you a question that nobody has ever gotten wrong when I've had an SNL person on, even if they go back to the earliest days. Who was your first guest host on your first episode?
Oh, Jack Black. Everybody remembers their first day. You know what I mean? It was Jack Black.
I've asked people who gave you your Oscar and they couldn't remember. So I'm waiting for that first person to not remember that.
I hear you. I mean, like that, the Oscars there's probably so much going on. You know what I mean? Like so many different angles and people coming at you in different ways, and so many like other super duper famous people having a night. You know what I mean? But like your first SNL, you're so focused on like what you've, strived for all this time to get to this one moment. And I think it's hard to forget that first one.
And according to the number I found, 305 episodes.
Does that
sound about right?
I have no idea. I've always been scared to count, but that sounds good.
Well, I hope I didn't ruin anything there for you. But that's you already know you're the longest serving cast member. You surpassed Darrell Hammond, and I think Kevin Nealon was before him, and maybe Phil Hartman. All of those guys were just a little bit behind your number right now. What does that mean to you? Since it's such a storied history on the show.
It's incredible. I can't wait to design my tattoo. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of those things that you never expect in life that, you know, it actually happens. And it's like, okay, well, what do I do with this? But really the most important thing is that the show has to go on. You know what I'm saying? Whether I've done 305 episodes or not, or if I'm there or not, the show will continue to do its thing. So while I'm there, it's like, yeah, I've done shows in the past, but you're only as good as your last episode. You know what I'm saying? So we just keep moving forward because we have to earn our laughs every single week. Like, people get excited about seeing the Family Feud set, but within my first joke or two, if it doesn't land strong, you know what I mean, we're going to be off course. So like, there's really no time to relax until I guess I'm retired from there.
Well, when you do something like the 40th anniversary and all of those legends are around, tell us about that night and what that meant to you.
It was incredible. Another incredible moment. You know what I mean? It was, first of all, like, our audience is kind of on a second tier and there's only like 300 people. So it's very intimate, you know what I mean? And this time, like, they brought in bleachers and they, you know, had audience seats coming all the way down to the floor, you know, and it was in like a circle type pattern or whatever. And then in every single seat of that audience was somebody incredibly famous, you know what I mean? And it wasn't like there were any like normal people in there that week. It was always like, oh snap, Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh snap, Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, his wife, Rita. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like every single unbelievably uber duper famous person, as well as somebody super historic to the show. You know what I mean? Like, oh snap, like there's Steve Gutenberg and like Jeff Goldblum, like, you know, all these people. It was just incredible.
I met the original cast, the living members, back in November. They were inducted into the TV Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And when they were walking down the red carpet, it was like for me, because I grew up in I was like 8 when it started. It was like watching a painting come to life, seeing Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase and, you know, Bill Murray and all of them together. That was just so amazing.
It'd be like if all the Thanksgiving Day parade floats like shrunk down to human size and started walking around. You know what I mean? Like all these like famous images of your entire life. And like, you know, lucky for me, Aykroyd has been around a few times. So like the shock of it is a little less with him because he is so kind of like normal and down to earth and super duper nice. But like Garrett Morris blew me away. You know what I mean? Just to be able to see that dude is a legend, especially, you know, I mean, for Black people, it's like, come on. You know, he's like the first one to get there. And then like for Black people that have serviced this show, you know, in their own right and careers, it's like you got to pay homage. And like Tracy was the first one to tell me about that when I got hired. You know what I mean? He was already gone from the show, but he made it a point to be around my first week and kind of like take us under his wing and show us around. And I really respected that. So when I saw Garrett, it was just like, man, there it is. You know, the OG, the triple OG.
Do you do that with newcomer cast members? Do you try to make sure that they're all comfortable and know what's going on?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, they have a lot of that going on anyway, with people like pulling them in different directions in the talent department and showing them like wardrobe and like, you know, there's a lot of that going on. But like whenever we have a moment, I try to like, yeah, you know, flick off a little knowledge if I can make them, you know, feel at ease about approaching an idea, or like if they're on the edge about it, I'm like, just try it. You know what I'm saying? Like any idea is only as good as when it gets heard. You know what I'm saying? So there's no reason to like be afraid to try things. And also just, you know, make sure that everybody kind of feels supported. You know what I mean? It's always been a different kind of air from when I read the book when I was first hired on the job. And like I was reading the big giant, you know, SNL like autobiography book, and it was just like about like how you used to be super duper competitive. And when I got there, it was competitive, but only in the form of trying to get your stuff on the show, as opposed to like people backstabbing and stuff like that. So I've just been trying to pass that air along, keep that going.
What I love about this year's Emmy Awards, he did this in the late 80s, but Lorne Michaels, your creator, is going to produce this year's Emmy Awards. What do you think about that?
He's a great producer, so it sounds like we're all going to do a whole lot of last minute work. But you know, I'm looking forward to like whatever, you know, as long as it's funny and it's entertaining and we have a good time with the room. You know what I'm saying? Like that's because those award shows can drag on and on and on, and nobody wants to like listen to like half worked out things. So if everything is tight and everything is like enjoyable, I think we'll have a good night.
Yeah, as Johnny Carson said, like somebody asked him once why he stopped hosting award shows, and he said, it hit me all of a sudden one night that 80% over the course of the evening, the room was filling up with losers, and by the end of the night, it's 80% losers.
That's a fantastic way to look at it. Yeah, absolutely.
So with Lauren producing, Michael and Colin hosting, you think will you be on there? Will you be doing a little something?
I mean, I guess if I'm available, you know what I mean? Like,
well, you're going to be available because you're going to be nominated for supporting actor. I have no doubt.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that and putting that into the universe. I really appreciate that. Well, I mean, if that is the case and, you know, it's in God's hands, then I will be there ready with my shoes laced. I
saw Lauren last year at a party afterwards and was telling him, you may not be aware of this either. You know, Melissa won, Dave Chappelle won, Kate won, and Alec won last year. So you had 4 out of the 6 acting categories. You didn't have any lead actor or actress. And that's the first time a show had ever won 4 acting awards at the Emmys in the same year.
Boom. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I can say.
You got to add to that this year.
Boom. Suck on it. Yeah. Like, yeah, I would love to add to that. Like, that's a great title. Like, the show's been setting records in its 43rd and 42nd year, like nothing I've ever seen before. You know what I mean? So it's
no show's ever won more Emmys overall. It's way ahead of Game of Thrones. I don't remember the exact number, but it's like 20 more than Game of Thrones, which is in second place. So but part of that's, you know, the sheer number of years, and part of that is the quality.
Yeah, definitely. It also shows you how great Game of Thrones is.
Yeah, and only the last, you know, that's only been on the air a few years. One last question. At that same ceremony last year, it had been a long time since the SNL won the variety program category. So what was that like, celebrating with the whole team that you won the program category?
I mean, it had to feel great. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, yo, finally, like, what we know about the work that we put out there is finally being reciprocated. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all feel like we put out a group effort, and whether or not it's received like that, you know, it's, you know, hit or miss, I guess, but not last year. So we felt respected.
Well, we've been enjoying you so long. I'm so glad you could join us for a chat today. And I want to see you on the red carpet at the Emmys in a couple of months.
Oh, thank you very much, man. Well, I'm getting my tux ready right now, for sure.